Chapter 856. Who is it? When I appear in your memories once again, you will remember me, and you will then truly become my subordinate. Su Ming raised his right hand and tapped the center of Yu Hongbang's brows. Yu Hongbang's injuries were immediately healed, but a dazed expression appeared in his eyes, and he slowly fell to the ground. Su Ming swung his right hand, and a gentle gust of wind immediately swept through the area. It gushed forth in a manner as if there was nothing in the world that could stop this wind spreading out. It did not matter whether it was mountain ranges or cave abodes, all the geographical structures in the land with cultivators around seemed as if they were just illusions. All the cultivators that the piercing wind touched instantly began shuddering no matter what their levels of cultivation were. A dazed look appeared in their eyes. All their impressions and memories about Su Ming vanished into the wind, as the cultivators fell on the ground unconscious. In the blink of an eye, Su Ming became the only person who remained standing in the mountain range. The wind continued spreading out. With this place as the center, the wind spread through the entire Crimson Flame planet. This was a windstorm aiming to wipe off all memories regarding Su Ming, as if he had never existed in Crimson Flame planet, no matter whether it was the past or the present. In fact, even those who had died and were now soul fragments drifting in the world had their fragmented memories wiped off. The parts in their minds where those memories had existed turned into blank slates. As the windstorm swept outwards and spread out continuously, Su Ming took a step towards the sky. With it, he disappeared. When he reappeared, he was standing on a mountain. There was a small house made of stone at the top, and an old woman was sitting cross-legged in there. She stared at the door of her house. There was a dismal expression on her face, as if she was waiting for something. Su Ming walked forward, and when he arrived outside the house, the wind he had stirred up earlier had already swept past most of Crimson Flame planet. In another few breaths, it would cover the entire planet. Su Ming pushed open the door to the house, and the door swung open with a creak. He did not go in, but stood outside the house. His gaze met the old woman's. You still came here, in the end. The old woman was Mai Lan, and she was also the source for the creation of the blood identification pearls when the four great true worlds extracted her memories. I'm here. As Su Ming spoke calmly, he walked into the stone house and sat on a chair by the side. I'll thank you if you allow me to die in a more dignified manner. The old woman closed her eyes. Once she finished saying these words, she stilled. 5 breaths later, the windstorm finally covered the entire Crimson Flame planet, and all the cultivators in the planet forgot about Su Ming, their memories taken by the wind. This was an irreversible erasure of their memories, and they would not be able to recover it. Crimson Flame planet was the start of Su Ming's journey in the barren lands of divine essence. That was why certain mysterious aspects had appeared in the planet, such as the possibility of forming the blood identification pearl through the memories of the people in this place. When Su Ming eventually left Crimson Flame planet, all those who had once seen him would no longer be able to form the blood identification pearl through their memories about him. This divine ability was related to the power of plain Kalpa realm, and the mysteries contained within it could not be described with words. Once the windstorm spread through the entire Crimson Flame planet and gradually vanished to allow the planet to return to a state of peace while all the cultivators remained in deep sleep, Su Ming walked out of the house. He cast a final glance at Crimson Flame planet and turned around to stroll towards the sky. Gradually, a crimson coffin manifested around him. Su Ming stepped on it and walked into space. 2 long arcs flew up from the ground. One of them was the Duke of Crimson Flame, and the other was the bald crane. They caught up to Su Ming and vanished into space with him. Damn it all, those jerks. I've hidden crystals in about 7 to 10,000 places, but the crystals in 2 spots where I hid them were gone. I can't believe it. I'm so frustrated. I absolutely can't hide crystals anymore. It's not safe, and it's far too easy for me to lose them. My heart hurts, Su Ming. My heart really hurts. The bald crane had an expression that its heart was aching terribly, and by the looks of it, it was not pretending. It was really feeling that its heart was bleeding from emotional pain. Its hurt lasted for so long that the bald crane still had a distressed expression on its face and looked as if it was in anguish even after Su Ming left, as if it had lost the most precious thing in its life. 10 breaths after Su Ming left Crimson Flame planet, the first to open his eyes was Yu Hongbang. A perplexed look appeared in his eyes, as if he knew that something had happened, but when he thought about it carefully, he found that there was a person missing in his memories. That person's figure was indistinct, and no matter how hard he tried, he could not remember him. When he lowered his head, he saw Zhao Guangyu's head in his hand. Soon after, more people woke up, but all of them were the same as Yu Hongbang. There was a person missing in their memories, along with his name. On a mountain in a stone house was an old woman sitting cross-legged inside. She gradually opened her eyes, and there was a dazed look within them. After a moment, she sighed lightly. I can't remember. She did not die. Crimson Flame Planet still had its set trajectory, and it was still moving about that trajectory. However, in all of the people's memories, a series of events had been eternally wiped off. It was just as Su Ming had told Yu Hongbang earlier. If Yu Hongbang could remember, then he would truly become Su Ming's subordinate. If he could not, then they would no longer have anything to do with each other. Su Ming sat cross-legged on the red coffin in the galaxy as he meditated with closed eyes. Time trickled by. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, up till 5 years passed. During the course of these 5 years, Su Ming headed swiftly towards Black Ink Planet. Occasionally, he would shift using the power of the rune, increasing his travel speed by a lot. As of then, he was almost at the borders of Black Ink Planet. With just a little more time, he would be able to enter its area. The amount of time they spent getting to this place was slightly shorter than what Su Ming had expected. The blood identification pearls had lost their effect, so no one could track Su Ming any longer. The bald crane had also fused with the divinity incarceration rune, so that particular method of using the rune to track him down no longer posed a threat to him as well. Perhaps only if a master of fate, lives, and death covered the entire Western Ring Nebula with their will would they possibly be able to find Su Ming. However, he did not run into any true guards on his way to Black Ink Planet, and neither did he hear the 4 great true worlds mentioning anything about him again. Su Ming was well aware of why it was so. During his trip to the region where the forces of power from true Sacred Yin World keeping a lookout over Western Ring Nebula were stationed, Su Ming had killed Dao Ren and demonstrated his might. He also managed to survive after a master of fate, lives, and death chased him down, and had even caused a stir in the entire galaxy. He refused to believe that they did not know who he was. Even if Dao Ren, who recognized him, had died, Wu Lizi was still around. True Sacred Yin World must already know that he was the Mo Su that they had chased after in the past. So they've given silent consent to my continued existence, huh? Su Ming opened his eyes. Or are they gathering up a new storm? No matter what, the feud between me and the 4 great true worlds hasn't ended. With a calm expression on his face, Su Ming closed his eyes once again. He might have done so, but it was not silent around him. During these past 5 years, Su Ming had come to know just how good the bald crane was at talking non-stop. My heart hurts. Oh, my heart hurts. Su Ming, my heart hurts. Say, I've hidden them so well, you know, so why did the crystals in 2 spots go missing? 9 of them went missing, just like that. The bald crane's voice traveled through the air, and the crane sounded as if it was beating its chest in anguish. The Duke of Crimson Flame quickly closed his eyes and pretended he did not hear anything. I've lived a pitiful life of saving up by cutting down my expenses, of running about searching for crystals. I've worked hard and kept constant vigilance over these years, but why did I lose them? I can't accept this. This is the first time I lost my crystals. My heart aches. Su Ming, my heart is already hurting so much, why aren't you giving me a response? Even after chattering away for half a day, the bald crane did not feel thirsty. It simply looked at Su Ming with eager eyes. Su Ming ignored it. Su Ming, I burned my soul for you in the past. You still owe me 1 million crystals. Why you? My heart is aching so much I can't handle it, and I need comfort, but you're not even speaking to me. My heart hurts. I've given you 86 crystals during the past 5 years. Su Ming frowned and opened his eyes to glare at the bald crane. When the bald crane noticed that Su Ming was responding, it was immediately filled with energy and even its fighting spirit began to burn, making it clear that it wanted to argue with him for a long, long time. That's not the same thing. If you gave those crystals to me, then those are the things you gave me, but the ones I lost are forever lost. Even if I get 10 billion crystals in the future, I should actually have 10,000,000,009 crystals. The bald crane seized its chest, and based on its expression, it could be seen that this problem had been troubling it during the past 5 years. Su Ming forced down the irritation that had risen in his heart after being tormented by the bald crane for 5 years and said flatly, "Then go and snatch 9 crystals." "But even if I snatch them, I would still have lost 9 crystals." "Then go steal some more." "Even if I steal, I still would have lost them." "Go pick some up." "Where to?" "Even if pick some up, I still would have lost them." The bald crane put on a long face. "Then what do you want to do?" Su Ming let out a long sigh. He could tell that the bald crane had not been making a fuss out of nothing during these 5 years, but was really troubled by this. To the bald crane, who would consider itself to have lost crystals if it did not see any when it ventured out, truly losing 9 crystals would definitely be a disaster to it. "Let's go back to Crimson Flame Planet. I want to search for them again. I swear I'll definitely find the person who stole my crystals." The bald crane ground its teeth in anger. "We're almost at Black Ink Planet." Su Ming sighed again. "I have a feeling that if we go to Black Ink Planet, I'm going to lose more crystals. This feeling is incredibly strong, very, very strong. The closer we get to Black Ink Planet, the stronger this feeling gets, and I can't stand it anymore." The bald crane was using every trick in its disposal to speak and emote with great feeling. It did not have any sort of premonition that made it feel like it was going to lose its crystals, but at that moment, it did not know that its nonsensical words right then would turn into a heartache very soon which would drive it crazy for the rest of its life. Who's that? What a familiar presence." As the bald crane continued speaking, it was suddenly taken aback and let out a light gasp. It could sense all the things within a very large area, since it had fused with the divinity incarceration rune. A focused glint appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He fused his Atman into the bald crane's divinity incarceration rune, and immediately, the large galaxy showed up clearly in his mind. In a place that was rather far away from where they were, Su Ming saw a snake-like beast whose body was rotting away but was not dead, struggling forward while filled with the aura of death. By the looks of it, it was on the verge of death and already had 1 foot in its grave. Before long, it would die. Behind it were hundreds of cultivators. There were moths under their feet, and they were chasing after it while letting out strange cries. These cultivators were dressed in rags, but there was a fierce light shining in their eyes. The person in the lead was a woman. She was thin and tiny, and there was dirt on her face, making it so that no one could see her true appearance. However, she was the fastest among them. There was a string of bells on her wrist, and every single time they swayed, the galaxy would distort and the beast before them would let out a pained roar. At the instant Su Ming saw the snake-like beast, he was stunned. Chapter 857. Xiao Huang the Abyss Dragon let out a sad cry. It was exhausted, with little strength left in its body. After it had all of its power taken from it, its life after it was sent to the barren lands of divine essence had been filled with hardships during these past 1,000 years. In fact, there were even a few times when it had nearly died because it was severely wounded. It was not because it still had some of its physical power left and the other abyss dragons going against the wills of their progenitor and true sacred yin world by leaving it some methods to defend itself when it was banished to this place, it would have died a long time ago. After all, the dragon tendon which gathered all its qi and allowed it to possess great physical strength had been extracted from its body. Without the dragon tendon, it was as if it had been reduced from a dragon to a snake, and it had lost everything. As of then, it could only bring out power that was equivalent to those in man cultivation realm, and this was due to its people helping it in secret. During the 1,000 years, it struggled to live in agony, and from its initial refusal to yield, it had descended into despair. The repeated escapes and roars at the heavens when it was alone filled its heart with madness and hatred. This madness was not against Yu Xian, and the hate was not aimed at the berserkers in Yin Death region, but was instead aimed towards the Emperor of Abyss True World, as well as the Abyss Dragon's progenitor. The dragon had risked death to bring Yu Xian back, but had ended up in this state. It was loyal to the Abyss Dragons, but had its dragon tendon taken from its body. It was a creature that had prided itself for being a part of the Emperor of Abyss True World, but had its power completely abrogated by that same Emperor of Abyss True World. It hated them. Yet aside from hating them, it could do nothing else, because it did not have sufficient power. With a level of cultivation that was only equivalent to those in man cultivation realm, it did not have enough strength to protect itself in the barren lands of divine essence, and since it had lost its dragon tendon, its level of cultivation had not increased during these 1,000 years, no matter how hard it tried. It could only have its life run its course in the barren lands of divine essence. If it was not a dragon, then perhaps things would have been slightly better, perhaps things could still change and it would not have ended up this way. However, it could not transform and could only appear as a pathetic abyss dragon, and this, to many people in the barren lands of divine essence, meant that its body was full of treasures. Its flesh could provide nourishment to all those that ate it. Its scales could be turned into an armor if someone gathered them together and fused their power, or could be turned into enchanted treasure. Its blood had the power of a spirit stone once it was dried, and its organs were the greatest supplement to cultivators. Its bones were even more precious, for they could be turned into extremely powerful enchanted vessels. Its brain could allow others to learn the abyssal world's arts if they gained an epiphany through it. In fact, even its soul had its uses. If it was refined by a powerful warrior, it could be sealed in an enchanted treasure and turned into a vessel spirit. It was a miracle that this abyss dragon that had no power to protect itself could survive for 1,000 years. During this time, the abyss dragon had thought about dying many times. From its initial fear and despair, it had gradually become apathetic, and in the end, death and living lost their importance to it. Compared to living in agony like this, it would be better to just die and gain freedom. However, when such thoughts befell it, it always remembered the abyss dragon that helped it by quickly telling something before the banishment took place. There were numerous alien races within the galaxy behind Black Ink Planet. However, there was also a serendipity there that could turn something decaying into something miraculous. If there was a place which could allow its cultivation base to be restored in the barren lands of divine essence, it would only be Divine Essence Star Ocean. That was why during these 1,000 years, the dragon had continued flying without stop, wanting to reach Black Ink Planet and head to Divine Essence Star Ocean. However, all of this had now turned into a mere dream. Yet there was still unwillingness to admit defeat in the depths of its heart. This refusal to give in was an obsession that not even time managed to take away. The dragon hated the Emperor of Abyss True World and wanted to take revenge on that world. It wanted to return to the Abyss Dragons and win against the Abyss Dragon's progenitor. It also wanted to meet its young mistress once more and hear her call its name. However, it knew that this was impossible. Forget even being able to leave the barren lands of divine essence. This disaster of being chased by the cultivators alone was something it could not escape from. The howling behind it continued non-stop. The weird shouts and killing intent had locked onto the dragon firmly. Its speed was not fast to begin with, and the people behind it had those moths under their feet. It could not escape. Its will gradually became clouded. The pain in its body made it unable to tell the source of the pain. It was as if there was not a single part in its body that did not ache. As blood poured from its body, the strange yells from the cultivators behind it became something that urged it forward. The echoes of the bells especially sounded as if they brought death in their wake. The dragon still remembered that it had only wanted to rest for a little while when it passed by a floating group of meteors in the galaxy 3 days ago. It had not shown any ill will, but the meteors actually served as a cave abode for a group of cultivators. When they appeared with those moths under their feet, the abyss dragon had even degraded itself by trying to curry their favor while begging to leave. Yet what it got in exchange was a chase after its life that lasted for 3 days. It could tell from the desire and murderous light in the pursuer's eyes that they had recognized that it was an abyss dragon, and they wanted to devour it alive. There were 4 lords of world planes among these cultivators, and there was even one who was at the middle stage of world plane realm. Even when the abyss dragon was at the peak of its condition, it had never reached this state. When it was in Yin Death region, it had only attained completion in the initial stage of world plane realm. With its cultivation base and its physical body of an abyss dragon, it could have somewhat put up a fight against those in the middle stage of world plane realm, but it could not have won against them. However, the powerful warrior in the middle stage of world plane realm had not personally joined in the chase. Instead, the other 3 cultivators in the initial stage of world plane realm had led nearly 100 cultivators and initiated this hunt for its life that lasted for 3 days. In truth, The Abyss Dragon could sense that they did not really need nearly 100 people to chase it down. Any one of the 3 cultivators in the initial stage of World Plane Realm could kill it within an instant. In fact, most of the 100 people could do so as well. However, they did not do it. Instead, it was as if they were intentionally toying with it. They only chased after and forced it to continuously flee, so it would use up its strength. At this point, the dragon was like a dying ember, only instinctively escaping forward. It had already lost all power to fight back. The strange cries in its ears sounded like mocking laughter. The bell chimes were like an illusion that made the Abyss Dragon's consciousness become increasingly more clouded. Wherever it went, blood would spill into the galaxy. Its vision blurred, and its eyes were about to fall shut at any moment. The howling sounds were closing in from behind. Whenever its blood spilled, someone from the near 100 cultivators would immediately fly out and use a jade bottle to pick it up. Laughter came from the near 100 cultivators behind the Abyss Dragon. The laughing was a young man who had just collected the dragon's blood, and he said with mirth towards the woman in front, who had the bells tied to her wrist. Lady Yu Luo, the Abyss Dragon's consciousness is about to scatter. The hunt this time was very interesting. Abyss dragons are incredibly precious in the Emperor of Abyss True World, so it's difficult to find any who would venture out, much less enter the barren lands of divine essence. It must have offended the influential powers in the Emperor of Abyss True World and was banished to this place. That's right, it only has power equivalent to those in man cultivation realm. During these 3 days, it was easy to see that its dragon tendon had been taken away. It's the same as a piece of trash. Ha ha. This isn't an Abyss Dragon, it's just a big snake. Lady Yu Luo, you're wise indeed. You made this snake continue running so its blood would circulate and the effect from each drop that spilled would be better than if we extracted it forcefully. In fact, this sort of chase would force its consciousness to fade, and it'll become even easier for you to control it and refine it into a flying enchanted vessel. In the future, it'll be much easier for us to head out. Laughter rang in space. The near 100 cultivators saw that the Abyss Dragon's speed had slowed down, and they knew that the dragon had reached its limit. The woman in front of the crowd had a prideful look on her face. She swung the bells on her wrist, and with a glint in her eyes, she looked towards the cultivators around her. She was the one who had discovered the dragon, and she had also suggested the plan to toy with it while chasing after it. By the looks of it, her plan was very effective. We'll chase it around for the time it takes to burn an incense stick, since the Abyss Dragon's soul is about to fade away. At that time, we'll use the secret art and gather its soul in its body. Then, it'll be much easier to search through its soul. Excitement appeared in the woman's eyes. She did not bother about the dragon's blood or any enchanted vessels. What she cared about was the Abyss Dragon's memories. Ever since she was born, she had been in the barren lands of divine essence and longed to go to the 4 great true worlds. However, all the people around her were the same and had never left the barren lands of divine essence before. However, the Abyss Dragon should have been banished to this place. If that was the case, then the sights of the world outside should be contained within the memories in its soul. That was what made her curious. Young mistress, we can't fool around anymore. That old monster Xianxia's territory lies ahead. The progenitor has stated before that we are not allowed to enter other people's territory. Just as the woman became excited, one of the 2 middle-aged men who had been following silently behind her all this while spoke flatly. These 2 people were in the initial stage of World Plane Realm, just like the woman. However, the feeling they gave others was as if they had gone through perilous battles, and there were hints of murderous aura surrounding them. The woman might be unwilling, but after a moment of hesitation, she could only nod in resignation. She shook her wrist, and the bell chimes immediately rang loudly. The speed of the near 100 cultivators behind her instantly increased exponentially, and they surpassed the Abyss Dragon and surrounded it. The hunt has ended. Kill the dragon and preserve its soul properly, the woman said coldly. In her eyes were excitement and cruelty. The sounds of affirmation rang out around her, and greed appeared in the eyes of the cultivators. The Abyss Dragon had already turned into an ingredient that they could eat to increase their levels of cultivation. At that moment, with a single shout, they spread out. The Abyss Dragon's consciousness had already become clouded. It knew that it was about to die. It might be unwilling to, but there was nothing it could do. As it laughed brokenly, it closed its eyes, but at the instant they fell shut, a gentle voice immediately echoed in its soul. Xiao Huang. At the instant the voice reached its soul, a violent shudder wrecked through its body. It trembled incredibly furiously, and even its soul began trembling. Its fading consciousness abruptly stopped scattering away. It was as if there was an endless amount of thunderbolts roaring in its heart. That name was the most precious existence in its memory. There was only one person who would call it by that name in the world, and that was a young woman called Xianxia, the Abyss Dragon's young mistress. The dragon had not heard these two words for more than 1,000 years. Those two words seemed to have awakened its memories, causing tears to fall down the Abyss Dragon's eyes as it trembled. However, it knew that the person who called it was not its young mistress, but another voice that it was familiar with. Xiao Huang. Chapter 858. Anything. When the voice called out the second time, it did not echo in the Abyss Dragon's heart. Instead, it spread throughout the galaxy. That voice seemed weak, but when it reached the place, ripples spread out and the galaxy even looked as if it was distorting. When that voice landed in the ears of the near 100 cultivators who were closing in on the Abyss Dragon with the intent of dissecting it, that voice instantly turned into a loud bang that shook the entire galaxy and was deafening to their ears. It crashed straight into their hearts, crushing their minds and breaking their souls. Blood poured out from all 7 orifices in their bodies. There were nearly 100 cultivators, and all of them were bleeding from their eyes, nose, ears, and mouth. Their eyes immediately lost focus and all forms of luster turned into streams of blood that flowed out of their eye sockets. The moths under their bodies also let out shrill screams of pain and exploded into bits and pieces of flesh and blood. The bodies of the near 100 cultivators tumbled backwards, as if they had been swept back by a huge force. They coughed up blood in midair, and all of them died. All of this was caused by the enunciation of the 2 words. Those 2 words killed nearly 100 cultivators. Even though there were no cultivators in World Plane Realm among them and the strongest was just in Heaven Cultivation Realm, the ability to do this was enough to shock all those who witnessed it. As the cultivators died altogether, their bodies shattered to pieces as they fell backwards, turning into a picture of mangled flesh. The stench of blood immediately filled the area. The woman with the bells on her wrist instantly turned stark pale, and the 2 middle-aged men behind her put on solemn expressions that had never appeared on their faces before. There was shock in their eyes, and cold sweat had even broken out on their foreheads due to extreme nervousness. Xiao Huang. The third call traveled clearly from a faraway distance at that moment. It landed in the Abyss Dragon, the 2 men, and the woman's ears. Once it did, the Abyss Dragon opened its eyes and saw a person walking over from the space in the distance. That person was dressed in white and had a head full of grey hair. As he walked forward, he gradually closed in, and the dragon saw the young man's handsome face, his ancient presence, his familiar gaze, and the time the Abyss Dragon always thought back upon with nostalgia. His arrival made it seem as if he brought the past with him, and the galaxy around him looked like it had stilled during that moment. Once the Abyss Dragon saw Su Ming clearly, it trembled even more furiously. Those were tremors caused by agitation and disbelief. It had not expected that it would be able to meet an old friend in the barren lands of divine essence. You. The Abyss Dragon only managed to say one word before its eyes slowly fell shut. It was already extremely exhausted, and after going through despair, at the instant it saw Su Ming, its soul began to disperse. Su Ming walked over to it and lifted his right hand to gently place it on the Abyss Dragon's wound and blood-ridden head. With it, the Abyss Dragon's fading soul began converging once again, and all its wounds were instantly healed. It was with this touch that Su Ming learned of what had happened. Xiao Huang's power had been abrogated, so the dragon could only bring out power equivalent to those in Man Cultivation Realm. Because of that touch, Su Ming also learned that the dragon tendon was missing. Su Ming did not know how many years the dragon had been in the barren lands of divine essence, but he could imagine that the life of one who could only bring out the power of those in Man Cultivation Realm must have been filled with hardships even if they only were around for several dozens of years. Not to mention that Su Ming saw numerous injuries on the Abyss Dragon's body as it recovered. In fact, some of them were old, a telling sign that they had been left hundreds of years ago. There were even some injuries on the Abyss Dragon which were nearly fatal. Su Ming was infuriated. He was truly enraged. But besides anger, he also felt worry. He did not know why the Abyss Dragon came to the barren lands of Divine Essence. He only knew that he had saw it take Yu Xian and leave when they were still in Yin Death region to head towards the Emperor of Abyss True World. Yet now, it had appeared in this place. Then, where was Yu Xian? I am a daylily in the rain. This is the name my mother gave me. She wanted me to forget the sadness in my life and be happy forever. Yu Xian's voice seemed to echo in Su Ming's ears, lingering there for a long time. When Su Ming fell silent, the two middle-aged men not too far away were shivering. The shock on their faces was incredibly great. They could not see through Su Ming's level of cultivation, but they could sense a bloodthirst and murderous aura that they had never sensed before from him. They had originally thought that they had killed plenty of people, and they were even proud of the invisible murderous aura that had formed around them. But the moment they saw Su Ming, they discovered to their disbelief, the heavy murderous aura on Su Ming's body was something they could not hope to compare to. Theirs was like the light of a firefly compared to a bright moon. In fact, the mighty pressure Su Ming gave to them almost made these two people's minds break. Even when they were before their progenitor, they had not faced such great pressure as this. With this in mind, they could immediately be certain that this person was at the very least at the peak of the middle stage of World Plane Realm, and there was even a high possibility that he was an old monster in the later stage of World Plane Realm. This Abyss Dragon is the pet of someone in the later stage of World Plane Realm. As the two people's hearts shook, they saw Su Ming fall silent, and without any hesitation, they grabbed the woman who had become dazed and fell back in frenzy. Ever since they came under the progenitor's wing, they had never fled in this manner. They instantly moved with great desperation, but as they moved back, they saw Su Ming lift his head. During that instant, they roared together, and veins popped up on their faces. They pushed the dazed woman thousands of feet away before they shouted at her, "Young mistress, run! Go!" The woman trembled. The change had happened too quickly, and she found herself somewhat unable to accept what was going on. At that moment, as the two middle-aged men roared, she turned around and fled with an incredible speed. Almost at the moment she turned around, a shrill scream of pain came from the area behind her. She was familiar with the owner of that voice. It belonged to one of the two middle-aged men. Her heart ached. Tears fell down her eyes, but she could no longer repent. As the shadow of death loomed over her head, she experienced fear from the depths of her heart for the first time in her life. Your loyalty is commendable, but you won't be able to escape death. Killing intent shone in Su Ming's eyes. He pulled back his right index finger and looked at one of the two middle-aged men in the initial stage of World Plane Realm. His body had shattered. Once he was shredded to pieces, Su Ming cast his gaze on the other person. That man's face was pale. He was incredibly certain that Su Ming was an old monster in the later stage of World Plane Realm. Even the progenitor would be a mere ant before this person. The difference between them was like heaven and earth, so he was unable to manifest any will to fight against him. The middle-aged man's face was pale. When he saw that Su Ming had lifted his right hand once again, madness appeared on his face, which was filled with despair. His cultivation base and his soul burst swiftly into flames at the same time, and he charged towards Su Ming as if he had gone mad, choosing to self-destruct. However, while self-destruction would be an effective move against many since it was an art that caused death, but before an abyss builder, as long as that abyss builder had awakened, it would mostly be useless, especially since Su Ming had already somewhat understood the will of summer in his life matrix through his epiphanies. He lifted his right hand and swung forward. A feeling of time filled the middle-aged man's body. In an instant, time reversed about him, and he went back from the state of self-destruction to the moment before he triggered it, but it did not stop there. Time was still flowing in reverse, and so his face gradually stopped being that of a middle-aged man's, but became that of a young man, then a teenager, and several breaths later, after an unknown of time flowed in reverse on him, his body was reduced to ashes. Once he finished doing all this, Su Ming turned his head around and cast the sleeping Abyss Dragon a look. It was in deep sleep, and it was clear that it had been a long time since it had rested like this. When he saw that the wounds on its body were healing, a gentle look appeared in Su Ming's eyes. "Sleep. I am here, so you will be safe," Su Ming mumbled. He tapped the dragon lightly with his right hand and put it away into his storage bag before turning his head around to look in the direction in which the woman was leaving, and the chilling glare in his eyes appeared once again. It did not matter whether the person was a woman or a man, nor whether they were ugly or pretty. All of these things were just their outward appearances and were superficial in Su Ming's eyes. They had nothing to do with him. He only needed to know that a person wanted to kill Xiao Huang, and that was enough. If Yu Xian was around, she definitely would not have let you suffer so much with the way she was. But she isn't around, so I'll be the one to help you, Su Ming said gently and took a step forward. He did not rush after that woman, but started walking slowly towards her. Because of that, a powerful and mighty pressure could be formed. That pressure gathered on the woman, causing her to almost sink into despair in the mid of her fear, making her experience what the abyss dragon went through when she had been chasing it down in cold blood. Just then she shivered. Despair and fear filled her heart and soul. This feeling almost caused her to descend into madness. Tears continued falling down her eyes, and in her fear, she continued escaping non-stop. Su Ming followed her calmly, occasionally lifting his right index finger to point at her. A bloody gash would immediately appear on the woman's body, and when her blood gushed out, a jade bottle would fly out from Su Ming's storage bag. Once it caught her blood, it would continue floating in the area to be retrieved at any time. An eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. He did not think that he was boasting about his status because of the difference between their levels of cultivation, or that he was doing something that was unbefitting of his level of cultivation. In Su Ming's mind, the phrase using one's strength to bully the weak was something that if he needed to do towards enemies, he would find no problems with doing. He would use a similar method when faced with those of a high level of cultivation as to those with a lower level of cultivation. He would not mind persecuting either of them in such a manner. Su Ming didn't think that there was anything wrong with his actions. As long as he thought that he should be doing so, then no one could change it. In truth, the person who understood him the most was Yu Hongbang. Describing him as temperamental was indeed an apt description. Temperamental and willful. No law or rule could restrain Su Ming's actions, because he didn't believe that his actions were wrong. I will chase you down just like how you had chased down Xiao Huang. This was the simplest way to describe Su Ming's thoughts. Time passed. The woman's hair was a mess by the time a day had passed with her being chased. Her consciousness had almost faded away, her face was pale, her body was covered in wounds, and blood continued flowing out. It was continuously taken by Su Ming, and the pressure brought by this had left her in extreme despair. There was still about an entire day before she could reach the progenitor's cave abode, but her mind could no longer withstand this torment. Eventually, she stopped running away and instead turned around to plead for mercy from Su Ming. "Senior, please spare me. I know I've done wrong. As long as you don't kill me, I will do anything you ask." The woman was beautiful. At that moment, her clothes were in tatters and could not hide her body, giving her a tempting charm. "Anything?" Su Ming asked lightly. "Anything." The woman seemed to have thought of something and instinctively bit her lip. A red flush immediately appeared on her cheeks, and the desire to continue living became extremely strong in her heart. Chapter 859. The Bald Crane's Excitement. Su Ming cast the woman called Yu Luo a look. She was rather good-looking. Her body was curvaceous, and a large portion of her skin was revealed as it was now difficult for her tattered clothes to cover her up. With the shivers born from fear and the desire to live shining in her eyes, she was filled with an air that would cause the hearts of men to pump with excitement. Her expression, the color of her face, and the look in her eyes all said that she was willing to pay any sort of price, was willing to do anything. In fact, she was even willing to be ravaged any way Su Ming wanted. Su Ming's expression remained as calm as ever as he slowly walked towards the woman. When he approached her, Yu Luo instinctively wanted to dodge, but after a moment of hesitation, she gritted her teeth and stood there, simply allowing Su Ming to get closer to her. By then, their bodies were almost touching. In fact, she only needed to lean forward slightly and she would fall into Su Ming's embrace. He lowered his head slightly, and by the looks of it, he seemed as if he was going to kiss her lips. Yu Luo's heart thumped loud in her chest. As the sound rose and fell, her cheeks gradually gained a red flush, and her eyes shone with a woman's charm. It did not matter what sort of request Su Ming would make, she would do her best to curry his favor in order to survive. Su Ming was about to touch the woman's slightly parted lips, but right at the instant he was about to kiss her, he moved his head to her ear and stopped there. I may choose not to kill you, as long as you. When Su Ming whispered, his words traveled straight into Yu Luo's ear. As she listened to his voice, she lifted her hands to place them on her clothes. Her face turned even redder, and the gaze in her eyes turned even more alluring. Yet right at the moment she was about to undress herself, he spoke once again. As long as you run like you did just now, he said flatly and lifted his head. He moved hundreds of feet back and put on a smile on his face. Yu Luo shivered. She stared at Su Ming as her expression changed non-stop. Right when anger born from humiliation rose in her heart, despair reared its head once more. She might have been pampered and cared for since she was young, but she had still seen quite a number of cultivators with different personalities. However, none of them had ever terrified her like the person in front of her right then. Just as she was about to speak, Su Ming's smile turned into an indifferent one. He lifted his right hand and swung his arm, stirring up a violent gust of wind that swept up Yu Luo and flung her into the distance. Time had a very mysterious law. To those who were happy, the passing of time seemed as if it was so quick that it was hard to notice it. In the blink of an eye, it would be gone. However, to those who were in torment, time would pass in a terrifyingly slow manner. This was the case for Yu Luo. As she fled during the last half of a day before she reached her home, she felt as if she had fallen into hell, as if she was submerged in the endless passage of time, and it was moving at an incredibly slow pace. She was extremely weakened. Her face was pale, and she had lost a large amount of blood, which was all retrieved languidly by the nightmarish existence behind her, who would then continue chasing her at a relaxed pace. Her consciousness had become clouded and her mind had broken down. The only thing that remained in her mind was Su Ming's words telling her to flee, to continue running. She did so until a group of meteors floating in the galaxy finally appeared before her. This was her home. At the instant she saw the group of meteors, Yu Luo looked as if she had recovered a hint of her sanity. A strong light appeared in her eyes, and she became slightly faster, instantly heading towards a large stone. Progenitor, save me. At the instant she landed on the meteor, she let out a forlorn cry. When her voice echoed in space, she lost all her strength and collapsed on the ground unconscious. Su Ming stood in the galaxy and looked at the large group of meteors before him, then watched Yu Luo collapsing on one of them. He heard her forlorn cry echoing in space, but even several breaths later, there was no answer. The unconscious Yu Luo did not know that her progenitor did not appear. Another 3 breaths passed before Su Ming spoke lightly. Not coming out, He lifted his right hand and swung it in the air. The overlapping shadows of the divine essence runic symbols in his eye shone abruptly, then flew out from his eye to surround him before spreading out swiftly. Loud booms instantly broke the silence. As they reverberated in space, most of the meteors were reduced to ashes in the blink of an eye. The destruction continued, as if it would not stop until all meteors were destroyed. An anguished sigh came from the collapsing meteors, and an old man in a long blue robe walked out from one of them. That old man had a head full of white hair, and when he walked, he cast a complicated glance at the unconscious Yu Luo, then once he looked at Su Ming, he lowered his head. Senior, please calm down. I am Yu Han, a member of the extended family of Yu family in Black Ink Planet. I have been ordered to keep watch over the members of the family in space. Our daughter of the family, Yu Luo, is young and ignorant. Please spare her, and I will definitely offer you great gifts in return. The old man was incredibly respectful as he wrapped his fist in his palm and bowed deeply toward Su Ming. A glint appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He cast the old man a glance, but did not speak. He did not even ask what gifts the old man would give him in order to solve this matter. He turned around and walked into the distance, without paying any more attention to the old man. The old man was momentarily stunned by Su Ming's actions, but once a barely noticeable spark shone in his eyes, he immediately took a few steps forward and bowed toward Su Ming again. Senior, please wait. I am also at fault in this matter because I have not taught the child properly. I will definitely offer you a satisfactory conclusion to this matter. Senior, since you came to Black Ink Planet, You should be here to attend Black Ink Planet's famous Barren Lands auction or to head over to Divine Essence Star Ocean to fight against those from the alien race. I have a map detailing part of Divine Essence Star Ocean here with me, which can help you save a lot of time." As the old man spoke, he immediately brought out a piece of beast skin from his bosom, as if he was worried that Su Ming would leave. There were a few lines drawn on it, and it seemed like a map. Yet strangely, this map was not printed on a jade slip, but was drawn on a beast skin, which was a more primitive manner of drawing a map. Su Ming's footsteps came to a halt and he turned around to cast the old man a look with the ghost of a smile on his lips. With it, the old man's heart let out a thump, as if all the secrets he hid in his heart were seen through with that one glance, as if everything about him was laid bare before Su Ming. This feeling immediately turned into a sense of danger that rose swiftly in the old man's heart. "Xianxia." The old man's heart pounded against his chest, but he put on an even more respectful expression. When he spoke instinctively, he suddenly saw Su Ming lifting his right hand to seize the space beside him, and the beast's skin in his hand immediately flew out appear in Su Ming's hands. Su Ming held the beast's skin and cast it a few scrutinizing looks before turning around and leaving. The old man's heart trembled, and his expression changed several times. He did not expect that this person would leave just like that after coming to this place in such an aggressive manner and killing all the members in his family. He came in such a flashy manner, yet left without a sound. This made all the preparations he had done to have completely turned to waste. This made him anxious, and he took a few steps forward to speak again. "Xianxia. Xianxia, please wait. I haven't given you all the gifts yet. There is still a large amount of crystals I would like to give you to help you succeed in whatever you want to buy during the auction." These words had no effect on Su Ming, but the moment they were spoken, the bald crane's figure appeared in the space beside him. Its eyes shone and sparkled brilliantly as if there were crystals contained in its eyes as it looked at the old man. "How many crystals?" it instantly shouted excitedly. The old man hesitated for a moment before he gritted his teeth and said, 3,000,000 crystals. The bald crane let out a shrill scream, and as its body shivered, it stared intently at the old man. Its expression and gaze were filled with a ferocious air, as if it wanted to swallow the old man whole. Its body also grew larger in space, as if it could not control itself. In the blink of an eye, it had already grown to become several hundreds of feet big. When the old man heard the bald crane's shrill scream and saw its gigantic body as well as its ferocious expression, his heart shuddered and he took a few steps back to quickly speak up once again. 3,000,000 crystals are just the start. There will be 3,000,000 more to come. "Xianxia, please calm down. Please calm down." It would have been better if he had not said such words. Once they left his mouth, the bald crane screamed even louder, and the shudders in its body seemed to have reached an extreme state. Its expression caused the old man to be nervous, but Su Ming knew that the bald crane was just too excited. The shock from the 3,000,000 crystals was enough to make the bald crane go mad, but when the old man said that there were 3,000,000 more to come, that number turned into an even greater stimulation that caused the bald crane's mind to become a mess. 10,000,000. I'm willing to give you 10,000,000 crystals as an apology. When the old man saw that the gigantic featherless bird-like creature behaving in such a ferocious and crazed manner, he thought that the number of crystals he was offering was too few, enraging it, which was why he grit his teeth and quickly offered 10,000,000. At the instant he offered 10,000,000 crystals, the bald crane's eyes bulged out and its body shuddered a few times before its eyes rolled backwards and it fainted. This scene made the old man become even more nervous. Su Ming sighed. He knew that the bald crane had never expected that it would get 10,000,000 crystals. This shock came too suddenly, and the crane was stimulated so much that it fainted. Su Ming shook his head and no longer chose to leave. Instead, he turned around and looked at the old man. A chilling glare shone in his eyes. There was something about this old man. It was something Su Ming had thought when he appeared in this place just now, and after probing around a little, he obtained his answer. The old man seemed to be thinking of ways to lure Su Ming towards where he was. "Is the person you're waiting for still not here yet?" he asked flatly. When he said these words, the old man's heart trembled, but his expression remained as it did, though he did put on a stunned look. "Xianxia. I promised the woman that as long as she continued running, I wouldn't kill her, and since you didn't go after the Abyss Dragon, I originally did not consider taking your life, but planned to just punish you lightly. But since you schemed against me, then there is no need for me to let things end this way." Su Ming cast the old man a look, and his lips curled up into a cold sneer. He lifted his right hand and pointed towards the old man. With it, distortions instantly appeared in space, and a destructive power gathered together with a bang to rush towards the old man. The old man's expression changed. At the instant he retreated, he shouted, "A strong enemy has invaded our territory. Main family, please take action." At the instant he said these words, the meteor on which he stood exploded with a loud bang. The ripples of power that belonged to a rune rose out. That meteor was a relocation rune that not even Su Ming had managed to discover just then. Chapter 860. Would you like to become our guest? This was a two-way relocation rune. It connected two places, allowing people enter and leave through either of the sides. If Su Ming had stepped on that meteor just now, then since the rune was in constant ready more, once it went into operation, he would have been forcefully relocated to a specific region, and the powerful warriors from the Yu family in that place would have attacked at the same time. Su Ming might not have discovered that there was a relocation rune contained within the meteor, but he had determined that there was something off based on the old man's actions. The other's attempt to hide was too fake in Su Ming's eyes. However, there were some strange aspects to this sort of concealment. Su Ming had indeed been unable to discover the man even though he had scanned the area with his Artman, just like how he had been unable to discover the relocation rune. However, once Su Ming destroyed a large portion of the meteors with the runic symbols, the old man seemed to have been forced out. Yet in truth, if he truly wanted to flee, he could have left the area beforehand. However, he did not leave. Instead, he chose to pretend to hide, then to come out. All of this was just to bait Su Ming into taking action and destroying some of the meteors. This destruction was like a signal, like he was trying to achieve some sort of goal. This area was where Yu family's external faction stayed. The first thing the old man had said was a hasty conveying of his status and an explanation whom this area belonged to. All of this might seem normal, but in truth, he had done so intentionally. Because of that, Su Ming could mostly determine what that person's goal had been, to ascertain that Su Ming had offended Black Ink Planet and the Yu family. If the old man had needed to ascertain this, then it would be much easier to explain what he had previously done. Chasing down the Abyss Dragon had been his personal decision, and even if trouble arose because of this, it had nothing to do with the Yu family, because it was all merely what he had done personally. However, if Su Ming destroyed the meteors, then the old man could set up a gigantic sham and make this matter, which was originally just a personal matter of his, into a fight against Su Ming and his entire family. After all, each and every single relocation rune set in the external factions were of great importance for a powerful family that could set a stronghold in Black Ink Planet and have their name ring through the entire barren lands of divine essence. Those relocation runes were part of their status. Once they were destroyed, it would be as if they had been slapped in the face, and they would definitely be unable to let this slide. However, it was a pity for the old man, because Su Ming had managed to see that there was something off with his actions, and he did not step on the meteors, but had instead turned around to leave. This immediately caught the old man off guard. The members of the family would definitely look into the matter of the meteors being destroyed, and if Su Ming left, then with how strict the family was to its members, they would definitely be able to find clues leading to the truth, and at that time, he would have to face severe punishment. After all, in his eyes, Su Ming was at the very least a cultivator at the peak of the middle stage of World Plane Realm. In fact, there was a high possibility that he was a powerful cultivator in the later stage of World Plane Realm. Unless absolutely necessary, even the main family would not offend this sort of person. That was why he had used the map as bait, wishing to lure Su Ming over. When he failed, he had spared no pains in using crystals as bait. However, when Su Ming had looked towards him with that gaze of his that seemed to be able to see through him, the old man knew that a deviation had occurred in his plan. That was why he had changed his plan without any hesitation. Since the other refused to come over SP, the old man could not send Su Ming to the main family, then he absolutely could not let him leave. If he could summon the main family here when Su Ming was still around, then, once they started fighting, this would no longer have too much connection to him. Even after they found the reason for this in the future, the enmity would have already been born between the main family and this person, so they would no longer have a choice. Loud booms came from the rune. A piercing white light instantly spread out and swept through the area from the meteor. In the blink of an eye, it covered the entire area, and as the rune was activated, 3 figures immediately walked out. They were 2 men and 1 woman. One of them was a middle-aged man, and he had a somber expression. The other 2 behind him were young adults, but all 3 of them were sending out ripples of power that belonged to those in the middle stage of World Plane Realm. The middle-aged man had already reached the peak of the middle stage of World Plane Realm. With this level of cultivation, he could already fight against Zhao family's progenitor. Even if he was still slightly weaker than the other, this man could already become an overlord of a region. At the instant he saw the 3 people, Su Ming formed an impression towards Black Ink Planet. Just one new family in there had let Su Ming see 4 cultivators in the middle stage of World Plane Realm, 3 cultivators in the initial one, and numerous in Heaven Cultivation Realm. This was also clearly just the tip of the iceberg of the Yu family. Even though Su Ming did not know what sort of status Yu family had in Black Ink Planet, he could tell from this hint of their power alone that Black Ink Planet was an ancient planet that had existed even before the 5th True World was destroyed. It was the only planet that had broken the seal many years before Su Ming had arrived, and the living beings within it had been able to venture out and escape from being suppressed by the 4 Great True Worlds. It allowed this planet to become a cultivation planet that was not controlled by the 4 Great True Worlds. It was a free, lawless planet that became a gathering place for many old monsters in the barren lands of divine essence. The powerful were the rulers of Black Ink Planet. The 4 Great True Worlds did not pay attention to them, and no true guards would dare come to the planet rashly, causing this place to seem rather chaotic. However, in truth, this planet became the place that gathered the most attention in the barren lands of divine essence. Most of the powerful warriors in the barren lands of divine essence gathered in this place. Cultivators in the later stage of World Plane Realm, or those who had attained completion, as well as those in Lunar Kalpa Realm along with those in Solar Kalpa Realm, might be here as well. If anyone compared sinful barren lands to a jail, then the existence of Black Ink Planet would become the darkest place of this jail, but would also be the only source of dawning light at the same time. Its geographical location prevented the 4 Great True Worlds from conquering it from afar, because on the other side of Black Ink Planet was Divine Essence Star Ocean, the place that made the 4 Great True Worlds wary. It was the true place that they were fending against. Because the alien races were in Divine Essence Star Ocean, some of the members of these alien races were remnants of the 5th True World in the past. However, most of them were mysterious alien races that possessed divine essence and were filled with an intimidating presence even while the 5th True World was still around. No one knew where the alien races with divine essence came from, and very few people knew just how many of them there were in Divine Essence Star Ocean. They seemed to have formed their own cultivation system and rarely formed any form of contact with the world outside. However, based on his conversations with the Duke of Crimson Flame, Su Ming had been able to tell that besides the legendary existences that were the Kalpa Lord and the true progenitor of the 5th True World, the powerful cultivators that were believed to not belong to the 5th True World were from outer space. This outer space could mean that they had come from other worlds, and could also mean that they came from Divine Essence Star Ocean. As the only transition point between Divine Essence Star Ocean and the 4 great galaxies of sinful barren lands, it was impossible for Black Ink Planet to not become the most eye-catching place in the barren lands of divine essence. Su Ming had learned from some of other people's memories that Black Ink Planet connected Divine Essence Star Ocean with the 4 great galaxies. That was why it became a transition point for those who wanted to take the risk to enter Divine Essence Star Ocean. Over the course of numerous years, a large amount of items, treasures, and almost every sort of item imaginable had appeared in Black Ink Planet. In fact, there were even members of alien races appearing in Black Ink Planet. These people could come and go as they pleased, which made this planet to become the only spot where members of both galaxies could trade. Hence, a tradition was formed in Black Ink Planet countless years ago that shocked the entire barren lands of divine essence, and was even able to make true guards hide their identity to come to this place. That tradition was the auction. Auction halls of various sizes became incredibly grand places in Black Ink Planet, and each one was managed by a family. The size of the auction hall was always the deciding factor for the family's status and power in Black Ink Planet. It would decide their rise and fall. Since auctions were celebrated for being honest and strict, that was why the families that managed these auctions would gradually start forming their own family rules as they continued growing. These rules were mostly used to provide service for auctions, and they would offer different forms of protection as well as punishment towards a family member's overbearing attitude. Su Ming had come to know these things when he obtained the memories of the people he devoured using the art of swallowing hollow shadows whole. He looked at the three people walking out of the rune with his usual calm expression. "I am Yu Chen Hai. Greetings, fellow Daoist. How may I address you?" The middle-aged man who walked out of the rune cast Su Ming a glance with a somber expression on his face. He might not be able to tell Su Ming's level of cultivation, but he could sense the murderous aura and the mighty pressure coming from him. Yet even so, his expression did not change as he wrapped his fist in his palm and spoke. "Su Ming," Su Ming answered languidly. He did not use Mo Su's name because that name had quite the reputation in the barren lands of divine essence. He did not know anything about Black Ink Planet, so it would be best for him to not make a fuss. "I see, so you are fellow Daoist Su. May I know whether the Yu family has offended you?" the middle-aged man asked in a somber tone. The old man who was tasked to keep watch over the region was feeling incredibly nervous at that moment. He knew how strict the rules were in the family, but had thought that the family would take action immediately after they arrived once they saw that most of the meteors had been destroyed. As long as they attacked, everything would be simple. However, the members of the family who appeared did not immediately take action but instead started communicating with the person. "I can't let them continue talking with each other." The old man grit his teeth, then cast a swift glance at the unconscious Yu Luo by the side, then began roaring. He went to Yu Luo's side, and when he lifted his head, his eyes were bloodshot. Rage burned in his eyes as he stared at Su Ming. "You killed nearly 100 of my family's disciples, made Yu Luo's fate unknown, destroyed most of the meteors here, and even wanted to kill me. I will definitely not let this slide. If you want to fight, then fight." As the old man spoke, he rose up from the ground and charged towards Su Ming. When the old man moved, a light crease appeared between the middle-aged man's brows. He could not figure out Su Ming's level of cultivation, but once he came to this place, he had scanned the area with his divine sense. When he saw the meteors and the old man's reaction, he formed his own judgment of the situation. He was originally hesitant, but once he saw that a member of his family had attacked, he decided to attack to judge Su Ming's strength. However, just as he was about to move, a bright light suddenly appeared, and his foot, which had already taken a step forward, froze. He saw Su Ming waving his arm as he stood in space, and immediately, a large amount of shining runic symbols appeared out of nowhere. As they spun in space, they surrounded the old man who was charging towards Su Ming. Once they formed multiple rings around him, they contracted, and as if they were sealing him, they encircled him and prevented him from moving. No matter how hard the old man struggled, he could not move even a single inch. A seal that can make a cultivator in the middle stage of World Plane Realm be unable to move. The middle-aged man's eyes shone brilliantly, and once he cast an attentive glance at the runic symbols on the old man's body, he let out a hearty laugh and wrapped his fist in his palm before bowing to Su Ming. "Fellow Daoist Su, with your power, it is clear that the members of the extended family have provoked you first. Please forgive us in regards to this matter. I will definitely report this to the family and punish this man as a response for you." This time, the somber expression was gone from his face. His laughter was hearty, and there was a friendly attitude that was just pitched to the right level. Yu Chen Hai's expression was sincere as he said with a smile, "Fellow Daoist Su, do you happen to have a place to stay in Black Ink Planet? If you don't mind, would you like to be a guest of the Yu family and receive our offerings?"